New details surrounding Far Cry 7 might have just leaked. We got a lot to get through and it looks pretty interesting, so let's break that all down. Up next. What's going on, guys? It's Kalo, and I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content. Drop a like on the video, and welcome to the Level Up. Well, it looks like the main cast of characters that could be featured in the next Far Cry game, being Far Cry 7, have apparently been revealed, and this is all in a brand new leak. The Reddit user by Keycane Cock shared some details about the main cast members in a casting call that was held last year for a project named Rival. Now people are linking this to Far Cry because this project was managed by Angela Bodis, who happened to be the casting production manager for Far Cry 6 and many other Ubisoft titles. Now, first up, the overall description for the main cast roles includes mentions of a wealthy family and a conspiracy theorist. And that specific cast covers this small family by the name of the Bennetts, who are from modern-day New England and sport these New England accents. Now, the family is comprised of Layla, who's in her late 20s, Dax in his early to mid-40s, Bree, who's in her mid-30s, Christian in his mid-30s, Krista, who is either 19 or 20, and of course Henry Bennett, who's in his 60s to 70s. Now, Henry Bennett is going to be kind of the head of this whole family empire, and here's his big description. So, Henry Bennett is described as, quote, very upper crust and not too thick, articulate, sophisticated, and commanding. He is a well-educated elitist, and Henry is influential and enigmatic patriarch, the head of the Bennett Empire. He is ambitious, manipulative, stubborn, narcissistic, unstable, and tyrannical. That sounds like a Far Cry villain if I've ever heard one. But the Bennett legacy is in jeopardy of ending with him, and he has yet to figure out a way to rectify this. He wrestles with his failures as a fortune builder as he tries to secure his family's legacy. Now, this is where people have drawn connections to this show called Succession, and if you really don't know about it, family double-cross each other, there's a whole family business involved. It sounds pretty much like this. Now let's move on to Layla. Now Layla wants to take position of the CEO to remold the empire and help people, not exploit them. So I could be led to believe here she's kind of the good route for this story, but we're gonna get into that later. Now Dax. He's a spoon-fed, nepotistic firstborn son with a chip on his shoulder. A rich playboy that is egotistical, entitled, ruthless, jealous, and vindictive. Now Bree wants to get revenge on her father and find a cure for a neurological damage she believes was inflicted when she was a child. Now Krista is frustrated by this idea of sacrificing her own dreams to raise her brother, and her resentment occasionally seeps out. Now Dax, on the other hand, he wants to gain his father's approval as legitimate heir to the Bennett Empire. His whole life is a never-ending bid to win his father's acceptance. Now, I kind of want to talk about Dax real quick because with each casting, they kind of gave a character to compare that person to, and one of these people was Andrew Tate. If you're online, you know about him. So that sounds like a pretty interesting character to go with. Now, Christian does have this tense, kind of strained relationship with his father, and he blames his father for his mother's death. So, as you can tell within the Bennetts themselves, and there's 2 or 3 other characters that were mentioned here, there's a lot of conflicting fights, arguments, and beliefs. That makes for a pretty damn good story. Now, as for the other characters, one of them that was listed was Ian Duncan. Now, Ian Duncan is a, quote, provocative conspiracy theorist with an army of believers. He is megalomaniac, mastermind, and a charismatic master communicator. He's two-faced and vengeful, with very different public and private personas. So, basically, he's a nut job. Sign me up. But Ian is envious of the rich elite and the power they yield. He believes the world owes him respect, prosperity, and justice. He wants to prove to everyone that he's smarter than them, and he will take what he's owed. So, based off that description, he could probably be clashing with the Bennetts. In that case, I don't know who the villain would be. Again, we're gonna kind of get to that later. Now, as a whole, I do love the sound of these characters, and they all pretty much check the box for a cast that would thrive in a Far Cry themed game. The whole family empire dynamic could bring this opportunity for a choice or even morality meter that players could work off of to get different endings to the story depending on who you side with throughout the whole thing, because there are different members that have different beliefs, different motives, so morality here could be a very big factor. Now, another rumor based around this game is apparently it having a 72-hour real-time time frame to beat the whole game. Kind of like Ocarina of Time, where you're based with a certain amount of time to beat the game and do everything within it. And just to kind of be clear here, that's 72 real-world hours as opposed to in-game hours. That's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off. And I, for one, really don't like being confined to a smaller time limit, simply because when it comes to open world games, I want to enjoy them, I want to live in them, and really explore it. Now, another detail that was floated out there was this idea of a third-person mode, which for me is kind of hit or miss, but it is worth noting Far Cry 6 did implement this in a smaller capacity, especially when using certain weapons. But with all that being said, I'm going to pass it off to you guys. What do you think of these new details for Far Cry 7? But that about does it here. I've been Kalo, I gave you the lowdown on all things gaming, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content, drop a like on the video, and this has been the Level Up.